Hey everyone, welcome to the results video of the Intamin accelerator coaster contest. So in this month's contest, all players had to build an accelerator coaster. Now what's an accelerator coaster? It's a coaster with a hydraulic launch. Usually the layout is quite simple. They often have a vertical top hat, but not always. These days they're not built that often anymore, just because magnetic launches are much more reliable. But yeah, one of the conditions of this contest, one of the rules, was that players could not use magnetic launch, or at least it should not be visible. Anyway, there were 29 entries, so I'll just go through all of them, and I'll start from the one that placed last, and I'll finish with the one that got first place. Okay, here we have the entry that got last place. This one was made by CodeMan. Yeah, I don't have much to say about this one, except, well, a lot of the land just looks empty. So yeah, it just looks like a random collection of buildings. Nothing really does fit in. So yeah, when you make a map like this, just everything looks much better if you try to fill the map, and if you try to make everything look cohesive. This just doesn't look very finished to me. Also, these supports here are a little bit crazy. Alright, let's continue on to the next one. Alright, here's the entry from TIMidator. Well, yeah, TIMidator made this really big coaster with a big top hat. Well, yeah, the coaster layout, I guess it's okay. It goes underground here. I think that's pretty cool. It goes underwater and pops up here again. Other than that, the scenery in the map just looks a bit spammy. You probably shouldn't put so many flowers next to each other just to fill an area. That generally doesn't look that good. We have a cart track here, covered queue, big building here. Generally big buildings look better if they don't just look like a continuation of the same thing. So yeah, this building all looks a bit the same everywhere. Also, you shouldn't put grass on the inside of your buildings, and when you make a building like this, just put some walls here also on the inside. That makes them already look a lot better. Also, there's a boat, splash boat right here. It travels here underground very slowly, and the guests are all complaining that they want to get off. And here it makes a big drop with a sharp turn here, which travels through very fast. You probably shouldn't do that, because it looks pretty unsafe. Alright, let's continue on to the next one. Alright, this entry was made by Captain Noct, a newcomer on my server. Something you should avoid when submitting a park to me is to submit it while it's raining, or only if that was your intention. So yeah, he didn't go for he went for an accelerated coaster that doesn't use a top hat, but rather one that's more of a Rita-like layout. Rita being the ride in Alton Towers. So yeah, I kind of like the layout of this coaster. It's pretty cool. Other than that, well yeah, most of the park is just filled with trees and some random buildings here and there. It's probably better if you just make the park be well, you should probably extend the paths to go all around the park. Maybe add some extra rides and not just fill it up with landscape. Something else you should avoid is there's a random boat in the middle of the water. That doesn't make sense. No one leaves their boat in the middle of the water. Just put it at the shore or at a little dock. There's also a random car here on the roof. I think he could have also done a little bit more with the queues. Maybe make some decorations or cover it with a normal path type. I do like the little smiley face that he made here using these flowers. At least that's a highlight of this park. Alright, here we have the entry from ItsJustCurtis. The layout of this coaster is pretty cool. I probably wouldn't have done the supports like this. It looks a bit under-supported, with the only supports here being at the top. Yeah, the layout is quite decent. There's some big twisty drops and hills. The buildings also look okay. I think they still do look a bit bland, but at least they have some features. Yeah, the map is a little bit small, and again mostly covered with trees. That generally doesn't score very well if most of your park consists of area with trees. I do like the colors of the coaster, and there's also a nice little junior coaster here. Alright, here's the entry made by Edie, so a newcomer on my server. I think he actually made a coaster on a different planet. So yeah, these buildings, I think they're quite cool. They're simple, but it's okay. But yeah, lots of the ground is just covered with rock and random trees. I'm not really sure if the trees work well here. Near some random barrels. It's probably a bad idea to just spam your area with barrels in any situation. So yeah, he did go for the same style throughout the park, but I think the buildings are a little bit simple. I do like. Wait, there's some monorails here going around the park. It's kind of hard to make up my mind about this park. Maybe with some extra buildings or some different buildings or more of a cityscape, it would have probably looked even nicer. And probably, well, yeah, it's usually a bad idea to just leave lots of open land. Alright, here we have the entry from H-Man. He made this accelerator coaster. Goes up vertically here and drops down again. The big top hat. When you're building a realistic park, I typically don't place these photo elements because I think they look a bit silly with the smiley faces. But yeah, it's up to the player to decide. The layout of this coaster is quite cool. Not sure about this really tight helix over here. Other than that, it's quite nice. I do like the look of this station. That's pretty cool. Also, the supports here on this launch section, they're also really clever. I think he put he put the station of an station of an inverted impulse coaster right under the track here, which gives these cool supports. So yeah, that's a really cool trick. Other than that, there's this big wooden coaster right next to it. I think it was made to look like one of those RMC coasters. But yeah, sadly, half of the park is just this coaster, and then the other half is this RMC. It's like he could have just put any ride here. Would have probably been better. Maybe if this coaster extended a bit to this part and interacted with this coaster some way. Because now it's just really two halves of a park. Right, that's probably also a bit what hurt his score. Alright, here we have the entry made by DEDEDEROB. So he made this launched coaster, which launches from this barn, which is connected with an underground path to the rest of the park. That's probably usually a bad idea to just make an underground path to your coaster. It's usually much nicer if you actually have a path that leads to the coaster, which actually passes under or over it a few times, just so the guests can see a bit of what's about to happen to them. I do like the look of this barn. That's pretty cool. Also with this silo next to it and some pipes connecting it. So yeah, the coaster gets launched vertically here over this hill. In this hill there's also one of those chair lifts. so decorated with a mini golf track. And right after the hill, the coaster goes through some simple layout, simple track, back to the station. So yeah, coaster layout quite simple. There's some nice little buildings here, some other rides, some broken benches, and there's also a little hut here with a boat. This river does look quite dangerous to go on a boat on, but oh well, must be a really experienced fisherman. And also this little bridge here is pretty cool. Alright, let's go on to the next round. Okay, here's an entry made by Bionde Tuco. He's another newcomer on my server. So yeah, coaster gets launched here from this station with this strange building over it. Probably could have done a little bit better job on the building, but at least it does look interesting. So it gets launched from here. They use a bit of a transfer track here, and I think this looks a bit like a Storm Runner, the top hat. Here's an inversion. Actually a double inversion, after which here another inversion that goes underground for a bit, then pops up here again into the brake run. And there's another little coaster here with some switchback elements. Again here lots of barrels spammed next to the river rapids. Like I said, spamming barrels usually is not a good idea. I do like the landscaping on this land. What I didn't like about this entry was all the grass that was just left here. So yeah, this uncapped grass generally doesn't look very nice in your park. I usually just try to make forests in the areas that I don't use, or use a different ground type. But yeah, it's usually a good idea to just fill up any land you don't use. It's probably better than just leaving it open like this. It just gives your park a bit of an unfinished look. Alright, here we have the entry from Capitalism. So the story of this park was that out of nowhere a coaster appeared and crash landed into a favela. Lots of people died. And now people could enjoy the coaster that's suddenly here. So yeah, very interesting story. So yeah, he made all these little houses here. So yeah, they look a bit. Yeah, I think it looks a bit fancy for a favela. Well, yeah, some of the houses actually look quite crappy. So yeah, there's the coaster here, just a simple layout. Some other rides here in the middle. Lots of vomit here on the pods. I don't know if that was intended, but it's there and the people are complaining about it. Well yeah, what I didn't like that much about this park was this area with the trees here. I mean, it looks like it was supposed to look like a jungle. But the jungle is usually a lot more dense. So when you're making a jungle, you should really try your best to fill it up, make it feel more dense. For example, let's just disable clearance checks. For example, you could just spam these bushes right between the trees. There you go, it already looks a lot more dense. So yeah, just repeat that, just place some extra trees and it will make your jungle look a lot nicer with little effort. So yeah, I really recommend making your forests look more dense. Alright, in 20th place we have this entry from Trumavarium. He made a coaster here, also in the jungle, with quite an interesting landscape. So yeah, here you see some jagged cliffs spanning across the park with a big waterfall in the middle. I really like the look of this waterfall. That's really nice. And the coaster has a nice station here. and from there it gets launched here up the vertical top head. Then after that it goes through a lot of twisting, turning track with some hills. I actually thought the layout was a little bit long for an accelerator coaster. They typically have a layout that's much more simple. One thing I did really like about this park was that he actually copied and pasted a park entrance and used it here as the entrance or the exit. I think it's the entrance of a tunnel for his coaster. So yeah, I don't often use the stuff from the expansions, but this entrance actually works really well as a tunnel. So yeah, that was actually my favorite part of this entry. There's a little transfer track here. That's also pretty nice. Well, yeah. Other than that, yeah, just a lot of the park is covered in jungle. But again, here I think the jungle could have benefited from being a lot more dense. I actually like the way it looks here, but a lot less here. Alright, let's continue on to the next entry. Alright, in 19th place we have this entry from Ricardowordo. So yeah, he also went for a launched coaster called Ronin. Again, this is more of a layout like Desert Race or Rita. It probably would have been better if it was a little bit faster. This one just goes 100 kilometers per hour, the maximum. So yeah, it does look a little bit slow here throughout this track. Also loses some speed throughout the ride. Maybe it could have used some extra speed, I don't know. Other than that, on this land there's also a vertical drop coaster, which you can see here. And there's actually a dragon flying around here, going through the loop. I have used this trick myself in some parks, and it generally usually gives a nice effect. Here's some little buildings with some of the Japanese flags, or I think they're Japanese or Chinese. I don't know. They're from the Asian set. And here's a little coaster going through the trees. So yeah, it's nice, but I would have liked to see some extra buildings in the park. I think that would have made it a little bit more interesting. Although I do like the forests in this park. They're pretty well done. They look nice and dense. But yeah, some extra buildings would have made the park feel more complete, I think. Okay, here we have the entry from PhoenixWing101. PhoenixWing made this park. Well, here we have the accelerator coaster. I think it was based on King Mecha, but just a bit smaller and with an inverted top head. So yeah, the coaster gets launched here. Goes up the vertical inverted top head. A little hill after that before it returns to the station. So yeah, I think what most people didn't really like about this park is that the accelerator coaster, what this contest was really about, it is tucked away into a corner of the park, and everything else is just filler. When you make a coaster or ride for one of these contests, it's probably the best idea to really make it the centerpiece of your park. Put a little bit more in the middle rather than it just occupying one half or putting it away in a corner. I do really like everything else that's in the park, well, most of it. The scenery here around the coaster, it's really good. I like the building here, the queue lines decorated really nicely. There's some nice buildings here. Probably could have used a little bit more wood in the buildings. So there's some nice landscaping going on in this land as well. So yeah, overall it's not a bad entry, but yeah, you should really try to incorporate your coaster into the park and make it the centerpiece and build everything else around it, and not just tuck it away here. It's even separate it with a river. But yeah, really not a bad job. I personally did quite like this park. Alright, here's the entry from Wacked. Normally I don't allow unfinished parks, but I made an exception here because I did like a lot of the stuff that was in this park. Many people of course did rate it quite lowly because yeah, of course it is unfinished, which you can also clearly see in this area. So yeah, I'm not gonna make a habit of accepting unfinished parks, but here there was just so much good stuff that I decided for once to allow it. So yeah, I do really like the layout of this coaster. So yeah, the trains get launched here on this top hat, then they go through this helix here, do some quick banks. Yeah, lots of short hills here, and another little top hat, some more twisty track before it returns to the station. I think this coaster just has a good length. Yeah, also the station building is really nice. I really like how these things are layered. I think he actually stacked flying saucer track here to make these layered walls. I think that's done in a really clever way. Also, I really like these sort of shadings that these sunroof sunscreens that he made above the maze and some of the queues. That's actually really clever. I really like the way that looks. We can see some diagonal paths here made with using these diagonal metal sections. Probably when you submit a park you shouldn't keep your staff speed so high. It looks quite silly to see your handyman running around like this at a crazy speed. I also really like this play area that he made. But yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, but also it's clear that it's unfinished. So yeah, I hope to see a finished park from Wacked in the next contest, because from this it's clear that he's a really skilled player. Okay, here we have the entry made by Pienyan. Pienyan is another newcomer on this server, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, coaster gets launched here, goes through this rainbow tunnel, through this little building, up the inverted top hat. Lots of inverted top hats made by people. And goes through a little inversion here. And some more track here, a little drop, followed by a large loop before it returns to the station. What I like most here in this park is these buildings. So yeah, they're in the same style, and they actually look quite good. I really like the colors on them. So there's some more stuff in the same colors. The track texture here also looks really nice. I really like the transfer track here. Also more nice buildings throughout the park. Yeah, there's just lots of good stuff here. Oh, by the way, if you want to see these parks for yourself, you can just download them from my Discord server. It's free. So yeah, then you can go look at these parks in your own time and spend some more time in them, looking at them. So of course I'm now just covering all of them, and I can only spend a few minutes on every park, or else this video would get way too long. Anyway, I think this was a really nice park, so good job. Alright, here we have the entry from TheLapper96. What I immediately see on this coaster is the really cool colors. So yeah, this park uses a different palette. I really like the watercolor on this map, and the color of the coaster just works really well with this yellow color. And also the layout of this coaster is really nice. So some nice work on the supports here. I also like this building here. It looks pretty cool. I like how the black here on the inside of the building makes it look dark inside the building. That's a neat trick. Other than that, there's a car track here and another pretty nice corkscrew coaster. But yeah, I think what could have made this park a little bit better is, well, there are still some areas that sort of look like they could have used some extra buildings, like here, for example. And probably this building could have also used a bit of more attention. But yeah, overall it's not a bad job at all. Just think it had a lot more potential for a little bit, more buildings, and then probably would have had a little bit better score. Alright, here in 14th place we have this entry from Lycos Gen. I really like the look of this island. These curved monorail walls make it look really nice, together with this crazy paving. Also the grass looks nice, a nice combination of flowers next to it. So yeah, the coaster gets launched here. Again here you can see there's an inverted impulse coaster station under it, giving it these nice supports. That's a neat trick. Again, an inverted top hat. I do really like the support structure that he made for it. That looks really neat. But yeah, to be honest, I didn't really like the layout of the coaster. It just looks a little bit too big for this island, in my opinion. Probably if it would have just wrapped around the island, maybe with an inversion or two, it probably would have just finished the coaster. But yeah, right now it's just this huge structure next to the island. I do like this little wave that he made, which the coaster travels through. It's called Wave Runner. So yeah, with these splash boat elements and these waterfalls, he just made this little wave here. I think that idea is pretty cool. I'm not sure about this dock that he made next to the support structure. Probably he could have found a better texture for this. Oh yeah, there's also a shark swimming around here. That's quite funny. Alright, anyway, not a bad entry at all. Okay, here we have the entry made by Myna. Myna this time built something in a Roman theme, and I do like how everything just ties together. So yeah, the coaster layout is quite simple, also not blazingly fast. So yeah, the coaster gets launched here, circles around this Colosseum, then it travels through the hills here, over these paths, then does some more twists here, and travels under the path, and then finally it reaches the brake run, which also has a transfer track. I'm not sure how this transfer track would actually work. I guess the entire track can just slide with the train on it. But yeah, that's the thing I like most about this coaster. It's the interaction with the paths. It just travels over, under the paths, just giving the guests lots of opportunities to look at this coaster. Also just traveling right next to these buildings where the guests are walking. So yeah, that's what you also see in real life. Usually coasters will travel over or next to some paths at some point, just to get people excited for them. And this coaster just does it in a really good way. But yeah, other than that, there's lots of the same flowers here, but I do really like the fountains that are found here throughout all of this park. So yeah, overall, I like this coaster. I think maybe it could have used a junior coaster somewhere else in the map, or maybe another ride. But of course, I do see that a lot of the park is filled with this coaster. But yeah, I think this is actually a really good entry. Okay, this is the entry made by Bear. Bear didn't have much time to make his park. One thing I do really like about this park is the colors. You can really see this coaster here that's in the middle of the park with its nice bright green and yellow colors. It has a small layout, not occupying much of space of the park. but I do like the way it looks. I think these colors work really well together with the colors of the river rapids, or the guardrails of the river rapids. What I didn't really like about the river rapids was that there's water on both sides of the guardrail everywhere. When you make a river rapids ride, you should probably try to cover up some of the sides of the guardrail. Probably best if there's only water in the middle, or mostly only water in the middle, and just land or bushes or trees on the outside of the rail. Also here there's a silly section of the ride, because they travel up the hill here, then they do this sort of S-turn here for no reason. This ride's called Skiffa's Wet Dream, by the way. And here it does a big drop and then a sharp turn again. So yeah, the ride layout could have probably used a little bit more realism. But overall, I think this entry is really nice. Some nice buildings here as well. So yeah, I think this is a really good job, considering the little time that the bear had to make this park. And here's a piece of park dedicated to his favorite ride, Superman Ride of Steel. The ride's called A Joke. So yeah, it's a bit random, but it did make me laugh. Alright, let's continue on to the next park. Okay, here's the entry made by CXM 1060. He made this launched coaster with this huge Norwegian loop. So yeah, another ride, a real accelerator coaster which has that is Speed Monster at Tusenfried. But this one's also really nice. To be honest, I didn't really like the color scheme of this coaster. I think this orange is a bit too dark for my liking. Probably would have looked better with a more brighter color like this. I think this is much nicer. But of course, that's the choice of the creator of the park. I really like these buildings here. They're pretty nice, combining some of the scenery from the expansions with the scenery from the base game. Of course, mostly scenery from the base game. These buildings are quite simple, but they just look pretty good. Here he made a Ferris wheel using a multi-dimension coaster. I used that in some of my parks. I think it works quite well. Here we have a little bobsleigh coaster which uses normal trains. Yeah, I think I really like all the rides in this park. They look really good. Really nice buildings everywhere. So yeah, overall just a really good entry. Except for the color scheme, of course. Alright, here we have the entry made by Stephen Knack 3. Damn, this coaster uses a really nice palette with a different color of blue. Guess we can call this steel blue or something. I think this color blue works really well on this coaster. Again with yellow supports, and that just combines really well. Very intricate support structure combined with two launched freefall rides. A bit of a waterfall here right under the track. Some really nice buildings here, lots of track texture. Not sure. Oh yeah, this is the park entrance, Rocky Wood. I think this entrance is really pleasant to look at. Also, I love all the rock work here and the plants. That just works really well. And just tons of rock work throughout the plot. Yeah, I think he did the rock work in this park really well with all the gumdrops and the ruined statues. I think this usually looks best if you keep them all a bit in the same place. For example, in this area where they're just scattered, I think it looks a little bit less believable. But in this area, for example, I think the rock work looks really well. But yeah, overall, this is just a really nice entry. So yeah, he did keep some open area here with grass, but usually when you mow the grass, it actually looks quite good. It looks neat, tidy. You can see all the plants and the rocks confined here to the shore of the lake. Yeah, everything just looks quite neat. Here's a custom ride using this car from my roto drop, which swings from side to side here. And here there's also a suspended swinging coaster, which also looks really nice. So yeah, I really like this park. Also the pathing here is done really well. He made the paths invisible and put wooden blocks in its place. So yeah, overall this is a really great entry, and I would love to see more from this player in the future. Alright, here we have 9th place. This entry was made by Susbukett. One thing I immediately have to note about this entry was that Susbukett got 1 point deduction from the score, because he submitted the park after the deadline of the contest. So yeah, when you're doing one of these contests, just make sure you submit at the right time. Also, of course, keep the time zone in mind. I usually put the time in Central European time, or Central European summertime. So yeah, keep that in mind when you are not actually in Europe. Anyway, this was one of my favorite entries. I gave it a really high score just because I loved all the buildings in this map. Just look at this carousel. It's just awesome how this is decorated with these Asian style roofs, made mostly out of coaster elements, but also some scenery and some pillars from one of the expansions that you actually never see being used. Just lots of nice buildings here, so with different colors, really nice combinations of fences and coaster pieces. And I can look at this for hours, well, for minutes at least. But overall, just really good stuff. Also the trees around the park, it's just a really nice combination of the trees from the pagoda set and some of the normal trees. Lots of bushes, plants. This entry really has everything you could wish for. So a really nice big building here. Also a yin-yang symbol right here in front of this Norwegian loop. A dragon decoration for this coaster. Some people actually didn't like this dragon that much. I think it actually looks really cool. Or maybe it was this dragon decoration that they were complaining about. Either way, I just love this entry, and I gave it the maximum score, because this is just awesome. It's just too bad that it was delivered after the deadline. So yeah, again, when you're playing in one of these contests, make sure to submit your entry in time. Alright, let's continue on to the next entry. Alright, in 8th place we have this entry made by Mekkit. Yeah, Mekkit also didn't have much time. I think Mekkit had like 5 days. So yeah, the plot was made a little bit smaller using these maze pieces. Must have taken quite a bit of time to copy all these maze pieces here. I do like how the edges of the map were done using these volcano pieces. That's a really clever trick. It just makes the edges of the map a little bit less sharp. Also used for these cliffs here. I think I'll probably should use these a little bit more often myself as well, because that looks really good. So another coaster here with a dual station. You could see a lot of this in this entry. Just lots of nice track texture under and around the coaster. I really like this diagonal part here in the middle. Yeah, now it crosses diagonally again here in the other direction. Yeah, just a lovely station building here. It's a nice decorated cube path. The transfer track also looks really good. Lots of nice mazes are used here as scenery. I don't actually know how I cut off a piece of the maze here on the side. That's actually quite a cool trick. Let's see if I can figure out what has been done here. Okay, so it's actually just a piece of maze. Okay, I didn't... Ah, wait, I think I see what's being done here. Right. Okay, and here we have these three launched freefall rides. I think one of them is closed. Probably just to not hit the ride limit, I don't know, or maybe one of them is in maintenance. But yeah, I really like how these launched freefalls look right next to each other. Got RGB towers, yeah, red, blue and green. I like the flags on top. Yeah, everything here just... there's not much to look at in the park, but everything here is just really well done. So, great job again from Mekkit. Once again in the top 10. Alright, here we have the entry from Moebeezys. So yeah, there's the accelerator coaster with the dual station once again. The coaster gets launched here right up the top head, which is half inverted. So the first half inverted top head I have seen. I think the support structure is a bit much for the coaster. And the coaster travels vertically downwards here. And then, well, we can just see it in action now. So the coaster travels over this hill and through some inversions here. I do think the coaster has a bit long sections of straight track. Probably a more simple layout would have worked better for the coaster. I do like all the buildings here in this map. These buildings are just great. Also a slide here. I'm not really sure where this leads to. Maybe the station is just here. I saw some underground stuff happening. But yeah, I do really like the way these buildings look. So it's a nice combination of normal scenery and some of the expansion scenery. So yeah, the expansion sets don't have many useful items, but some of them you can use to make really cool stuff, like these wooden sets, these wooden walls, roofs, and also some of the Asian walls and roofs are actually quite usable. So yeah, also here under the coaster some really nice buildings. Actually, what I liked most was for this card track here. Moebeezys actually used a trick using a queue path. So if we go in, for example, over here, you can see there's a queue line here. So here's what it looks like normally. Then when you connect an extra edge, then actually the path disappears and only the supports remain. So yeah, for this part of the park, it's just covered in queue paths, invisible queue paths with only the supports. But it actually makes for a really nice texture. So yeah, that's what's being used here as the track for the go-karts. So yeah, I think that that's done a really clever way, and also it just looks really nice in combination with these other rides and queue paths in between. It's almost like it's custom scenery. You don't see this being used very often. So this building right next to here, that's also really nice. Some nice bridges here. Here you can see some monorail paths being used here to make some monorail tracks. I mean, to make these curved walls here. So yeah, I didn't really like the coaster myself personally, but I did really like everything else that was in this park. Okay, here we have another great entry from Risiko. He made this coaster, this accelerator coaster, which was a nod to a volcano, the Blast coaster. It's the ride that was recently removed, I think. It was a launched inverted coaster, but he made this sit-down version of it. So instead of Volcano the Blast Coaster, this one's called Eruption the Blasting Coaster. So yeah, it gets launched out of the mountain here, then goes through a turn here, then it pops out of the volcano here, and after that it goes around the volcano a few times with some inline twists. So yeah, basically just like what the inverted coaster did. Except of course the inverted coaster had magnetic launches, and this one has an hydraulic launch. What I liked most about this coaster actually was the custom supports. They look great. So it's a nice combination of I think it's launched freefall towers with monorail pieces in between, and also some pieces of inverted impulse coaster right here under the track. But yeah, the combination just looks really good in my opinion. Some really nice buildings throughout the entry. Of course, some orange water here. Also with River Rapids ride right here, traveling over the orange water. I hope it's not lava. Also, if we rotate the view here, you can actually see more buildings here that were previously obscured by the volcano. But yeah, everywhere you look, there's just really nice buildings. So some astronauts walking here, called lava lads. Looks like these employees all have names of volcanoes. Oh, looks like I'm here as well. Great leader, Dirkling. Just watching the park from above. Alright, well, I really enjoyed this entry. Let's continue on to the next one. Okay, here we get to the top 5. This one was in 5th place, made by SwagTitties, and he actually recreated part of, I think it's Nod's Berry Farm. So yeah, here you can see Accelerator, which was the world's first accelerator coaster built by Intamin. You can see the very typical pink color, and of course the big launch, quite a simple layout. Here you can see a bit of a transfer track right here. So yeah, the coaster is quite simple, just like the real counterpart. I do really like the supports that he made here, using these pipe pieces and these what are they called? Well, these support pieces, these poles. That's really nice. It actually quite looks like the real thing. Really nice station here as well. I kind of like this, the way this roof looks. And of course, there's also a piece of the park that he recreated quite nicely. So yeah, here you can see this train with some parked cars. So yeah, he actually used these suspended monorail trains to make the parked train cars. But I really like the way this looks. These buildings around here are also really nice. The structure here in the roof, I think they're done really well with this stacked wild mouse ride track. Here we have a boomerang coaster. Well, yeah, boomerangs, everybody knows the layout. I think he probably could have maybe done something more with the supports. I'm not sure. At least the supports on this side of the coaster look quite cool. Also really like this ride here. Nod's spinners. Looks like he shoestringed this ride to do this circuit here. I think at some point it probably speeds up and then the cars move more to the outside. But yeah, this is actually really well done. I like the way this looks. And other than that, there's just some other really nice buildings here. Not sure what this is. This is a theater, and here you can see some rock work with a log flume on top of Timber Mountain. I guess this is a building with some stalls in it where people can play games and win stuffed animals. But yeah, overall, I really like the way this park looks. I've never been to the park myself, but I'm sure SwagTitties did a really great job recreating it. Alright, here we have the park that got 4th place. This park is called Large Hadron Collider. It was made by Skiffa. So it's actually a dueling accelerator coaster. You probably could not see it, but they're actually traveling right next to each other. So one coaster has a normal top hat, the other one has an inverted top hat, and they interact with each other several times throughout the layout. Oh yeah, this park is so packed with stuff. It's hard for me to decide where to begin. It's just full of nice details. For example, I really like this monorail here that goes around. It's a shoestringed ride, I think. So it travels around this circle at high speed, called Gigaforce. I think it's supposed to look like one of those centrifuges. So yeah, I think it actually looks really nice going around here at high speed. Let me quickly stop the rain. That's better. But yeah, just a large covered ring around the park, which is probably the Large Hadron Collider, and just cool scenery everywhere. You can see the coaster popping up throughout this park everywhere. You can see some bits and pieces of the coaster everywhere. Yeah, you can see just lots of time was put into building all of this, and everything here just looks amazing. Like I said before, if you want to see these parks for yourself, you can download them from the archive on my Discord server. It's free, and then you can spend some more time looking at these parks for yourself. If I would spend more time in this video in every park, the video would just get too long. It's already quite long. So here you can see a little crane with a building that's under construction. What I really like about this crane is that there's actually a ride traveling upwards on it. That's actually a really cool trick. So I think it has a lay-down coaster car. So I guess it's upward launch. So it's launched free fall, but with a different car. And this just works really well. I also really love how the crane is constructed. It uses some ride cars and there's lots of track and texture, and it just looks awesome. So this little part was actually one of my favorite areas of the park. This building under construction just is really well done, and so is the crane right next to it. But yeah, other than that, just a really awesome entry. Alright, here's the entry that got 3rd place. This one was made by What the Hexadecimal. Of course, what immediately pops up here is this the big coaster. This big cathedral. Excuse me. Of course, there's also a big coaster. But yeah, the coaster actually gets launched from the cathedral. Then it travels through this wall here. Goes through this inverted top hat with this intricate support structure. Then it travels vertically downward, right over the water, and then it travels around this beached ship. Then here at the top it does an inversion, some more track here. I think it goes underground for a bit, more inversions. And here there's the brake section before it returns to the station inside the cathedral. And man, I just love the way this cathedral looks. The coaster layout is really nice. I just love how it interacts with all this stuff you can find. I just love how it circles around this ship here. Hey, there's a guy, Skiffa. And here there's also a tree with some this rusty anchor chain. But yeah, just lots of cool little details here. Lots of nice track and texture. Just lots of nice stuff. Everything's just really well decorated. You can see one of those trebuchet machines here. Yeah, there's just so much stuff to see here. So yeah, like I said earlier, just download this park and give it a quick look for yourself, and you'll probably discover a lot more than what I just showed you in this the video. Alright, let's move on to the next entry. Alright, here we have the entry that got second place. And of course what immediately shows here is the palette that was used. This palette is just amazing. I don't know if you have seen Sin City, but in the movie everything was also in this sort of palette. So with just grey dark colors, but the red was also still visible. But yeah, this park just has tons of really nice looking buildings, lots of nice track texture, just cool details everywhere. I have to say I'm not that familiar with the movies myself, but that doesn't really matter when you look at this park, because even if you don't get all the references, everything here is just so awesome to look at. So yeah, the coaster itself has a really cool layout. It actually has two hydraulic launches. So yeah, for a hydraulic launch to work, your coaster must come to an absolute standstill. And well, yeah, that's actually what Iretont did here. So somewhere here, there's actually the first launch, but right here it completely stops. He actually modified these brakes to look like magnetic brakes, and then right after that there's another launch. Well, yeah, like I said, just tons of cool looking buildings everywhere. I mean, just look at this. This is just an amazing sight to behold. You can actually see the coaster going around here. So yeah, first launch, it travels here at the top head and through the loop. It brakes here, and then it goes through the second launch. Then there's a bit more of a up and down section through these buildings here. Here you can see it pop up again, go through the inversion, and probably somewhere around here. Actually, that's a bit more of track. Oh yeah, and here's the brake section. What I actually liked most about this park was this section with the tar pits, called Santa Yolanda tar pits. But yeah, there's this river rapids ride going around here on the black water with these really cool looking red side rails, and just lots of flowers, even animated dinosaurs. But yeah, I think somehow with this palette, these animated dinosaurs actually work quite well. So yeah, you should really download this park and go check it out for yourself. It's just filled with tons of details. If you've seen the movies, you'll probably recognize more stuff than I did. But yeah, go give this park a look. And of course, something you'll immediately see here when you open the park is these letters, Sin City, spelled out on these buildings. It's a really neat trick. So yeah, great park and a well-deserved second place. And with that, we can now go take a look at the winner of this round. Alright, here we have the winner of this round. This park was made by Mamarillas. And damn, he just outdid himself again. So yeah, of course, let's first focus on the thing that immediately shows. It's this huge dragon made out of coaster parts and some scenery. And damn, it just looks amazing. That must have taken quite a while to build. It mostly consists of dinghy slide track pieces. Of course, the wings are made out of wooden coaster track pieces, and even some steeplechase on the back to make the stuff on his back, and some spikes here or hairs. There's just so much cool looking stuff on here. Big castle tower here, mostly made out of monorail track pieces. That must have taken ages to build. I know how tedious it is to make monorail walls. And of course, some wooden track with with monster truck track on top to make the roof here. Also, I think this is inverted coaster track here. There's just so many different track types used to make this tower. Here's some stained glass windows, just with these abstract walls, mostly with some of them sloped. I like these plants here on this level of the tower, these huge doors. Well, yeah, just nice, cool details on this tower everywhere. Also like how the coaster just circles around it, and it's held up by some supports which extend from the side of the tower. So yeah, some neat custom supports throughout this entry. Also, well, yeah, you can also of course see these clouds all made with gumdrops. This must have taken ages to place all these. Probably made good use of the spamming tool, I'm not sure. And of course there's this coaster which also looks really neat. So yeah, here you can see the station of the coaster. Here's the launch track. Then they travel up this high top hat here with these supports actually made of chairlift pieces and mine train coaster track pieces. They travel through this building here, and then the coaster circles around this tower a few times. And well, I can see why this entry was the winner. Everything here looks amazing. Also, I really like this big Ferris wheel. Of course, it's made using these river rafts traveling around this coaster track here. Yeah, with some really cool supports. I think this Ferris wheel is probably one of the nicest custom Ferris wheels that I've seen that doesn't use custom scenery. Other than that, of course, this entry path to the park is also a really nice detail. So it's just gumdrops in a rainbow color. I think it's a really cool, neat detail. But yeah, overall this park is just a sight to behold. Like I said, download it and go check it out for yourself. This park is just really neat. Alright, those were all the entries for the Accelerator Coaster contest. The new contest will start in a few days. If you want to join one of these, just become a member of my Discord. It's free, and then you can just start building once I release the rules document. And even if you don't want to join, if you become a member on my Discord, then you can also, whenever the deadline of the contest is reached, you can vote on all the entries if you're a member on my Discord. Anyway, I hope you had fun watching this video. I sure had fun watching and rating all these entries. So yeah, I hope to see you again in the next one. Alright, see you later.